Occasionally, seemingly benign and unthreatening images contain dark and evil backgrounds. A smiling picture of a typical family may be concealing what may turn out to be some of history's darkest events. Listed here are 10 seemingly unremarkable pictures that, upon closer examination of their backstories, reveal tragic and gloomy tales. Join us as we look at 10 normal images with disturbing backstories. Number 10. The Dating Game. The image depicts two people standing side by side, a man and a woman. The image is a still from The Dating Game, a well-known TV program that aired in the 1970s. Cheryl Bradshaw was the name of the woman. She was standing next to Rodney James Alcala. Rodney was on a murderous rampage when he first showed up. Between 1977 and 1979, he killed 5 people. He would torture his victims by strangling them until they were unconscious, letting them regain consciousness, and then repeatedly doing this until he killed them. They called him a killing machine. Although his actual number of killings is uncertain, he was apprehended and found guilty of 7 murders. He was described as a successful photographer who got his start when his father found him in the darkroom at the age of 13, fully developed, when he appeared on The Dating Game. He may be found skydiving or riding a motorcycle in between takes. Cheryl Bradshaw, the Bachelorette, agreed to go on a date with him. She, however, declined to go out with him because she thought he was scary. After this appearance, he would go on to kill 3 more women, and some feel that this rejection served as his motivation. Number 9. Tina Watson. Off the stunning Queensland coast, 2 scuba divers pose for a photo while underwater. On the water floor behind them, a rigid, prone person is lying. Later, it was determined that this was Tina Watson, who had been murdered by her husband. Tina Watson and her husband Gabe were on their honeymoon when they traveled to Queensland. They chose to scuba dive the SS Yongala, a well-known and difficult wreck, on the day of her passing. The dive shop proposed a guided dive for the trip, which the 2 declined because they lacked the qualifications for such a dive. Tina encountered difficulties while diving and fell about 30 meters, 100 feet, to the ocean below. Gabe asserted that he attempted to save his wife, but was unable to do so because of an ear issue. After 40 minutes of CPR when she was brought on board, she was declared dead. There were suspicions of foul play because Gabe had made contradicting answers and had previously urged Tina to enhance her life insurance and make him the only beneficiary. He was first charged with manslaughter in Queensland, but his charges were later dropped after he was accused of murder planning in his nation of residence, the United States. Number 8. Jolie Callan. Jolie Callan, 18, poses on top of a sheer rock face in an oversized red shirt while taking pictures of the stunning Pinhoti Trail in Delta, Alabama's Chehaw State Park. Lauren Bunner, her ex-boyfriend, had just hiked to this beautiful place. Just a few seconds later, Lauren shot her twice in the head with a .22 caliber Ruger Bearcat revolver before tossing her body over the edge. Later, he turned himself in by calling the police and admitting to killing his ex-girlfriend. Before Jolie broke up with Lauren because he was domineering and wouldn't let her hang out with her friends, the 2 had been dating for 10 months. Despite splitting up, they remained in touch frequently. Even a puppy was shared by them. Lauren invited Jolie to the walk where he would kill her 2 months after their split. Lauren Bunner received a 52-year jail term. Number 7. Dalen Moke Pua. Dalen Pua traveled to Waiane, Oahu, Hawaii to see his grandma. He had mentioned to her his desire to climb the Stairway to Heaven, also known as the Haiku Stairs. Anyone caught hiking this trail would be breaking the law because it was off limits to the public. His grandma forbade him from doing it and threatened to lock him up if he did. He boarded a bus on February 27, 2015, and set out for the Staircase to Heaven climb. Dalen texted his grandmother while on the hike and included pictures. He vanished without a trace. After he vanished, the pictures were examined. One of them revealed a figure in the background. He seemed to be trailing Dalen. The man's relatives requested help from the public and anyone that knew him to come forward. He or his remains have never been discovered, and it is still unknown what happened to him and who the weird man in the picture is. Number 6. The Red-Haired Woman. A man is pictured climbing in Montecito, California's Cold Spring Trail. On the cliffs behind him, there is a flare of crimson color. Sailor Gilliams has hair that is this shade of red. Gilliams and her friend Brendan Michael Vega had taken a hike later in the day. They were unprepared, and as it grew darker, their cell phones were insufficient to light the way, causing them to trip and fall. Vega suffered an arm injury, but Gilliams suffered wrist and ankle fractures. Vega attempted to fetch assistance, but instead fell 20 to 30 feet, 6 to 9 meters, off a ledge and died from his wounds. Gilliams was so alone. She would spend the entire night there before the bouldering men came across Gilliams the next day, unconscious on the rocks. She was airlifted out after emergency services were contacted. She did survive. Number 5. Dutch Girls of Panama. A selfie of two young women is taken in front of Panama's wild landscape. Chris Kremers and Lisanne Froon, two Dutch tourists who were climbing the El Pianista route, are the two girls. They left at 11 a.m. on April 1st to go on their hike. Unfortunately, they missed an appointment on the 2nd, and the girls' parents no longer received the daily texts they had been getting. The parents and a thorough police search arrived in Panama on April 6th. 10 days were spent searching the jungle. It turned out to be nothing. A woman turned in a blue backpack 10 weeks later. A camera and mobile phones were among the personal items that Froon kept in the rucksack. Only a few hours after the girls started their hike, the phones had evidence that emergency numbers had been called. However, the calls were unsuccessful owing to poor service. On April 4th, Froon's phone died, and from April 5th through April 11th, Kremers' phone would repeatedly turn on, but the wrong pin or no pin would always be input. 90 flash photographs were captured on the camera between 1 and 4 in the morning in the middle of the jungle. One horrific picture shows Kremers' hair covered with blood on the back of her head. A foot and pelvis were discovered inside a boot along with additional remains 2 months after the backpack was found. Later DNA testing established that these belonged to Chris Kremers and Lisanne Froon. What transpired to them is still a mystery. Number 4. Tyler Hadley. The image is hazy, as though the photographer had moved the camera while taking the picture. Two males are seen carrying an orange cup toward the camera in the picture. One of them has his head shaved. Tyler Hadley, who is holding the orange cup in the air, murdered his parents, Blake and Mary Jo Hadley, earlier that day while under the influence of ecstasy. Their dead bodies lay upstairs in the house as the party continued, wrapped in towels and covered with household items that Tyler associated with his parents. Since he was 10 years old, Tyler had a history of verbally threatening to kill his parents whenever they disciplined him or exercised parental control. Finally, he promised the party of a lifetime on the day of their killings. At noon, he posted on his Facebook page, "Party at my crib tonight, maybe." Because his parents were known for being stern, his classmates did not trust him. But at 8 o'clock, he once more tweeted, "Party at my house, HMU." He began informing everyone about his terrible act at the party. Those who heard him either departed or believed he was lying. Michael Mandel, his closest buddy, had seen the bodies upstairs. They afterward posed for this famous picture. After Michael eventually left the gathering, Tyler's offense was reported to the police by word of mouth. The day following the party, Tyler was detained and given a life sentence. Later, the Hadley residence was destroyed. Number 3. Black Bear in the Woods. A 300-pound black bear can be seen in the background of the image. The bear appears to be following the photographer and is around 100 feet, 30 meters distant, concealed behind a downed log. Darsh Patel, a 22-year-old student at Rutgers University, took the picture using his phone while on a hike with 4 other university mates in West Milford's Upshawa Preserve. Sadly, the bear pursued the students, and they decided to disperse. One student was absent from the group when they regrouped, Darsh Patel. 4 hours after police arrived at the location, Patel's body was found. The bear he had just seconds before captured had mauled him. His phone was found as well, with dents and this ominous image. Number 2. David A. Johnston. David A. Johnston greets the cameraman, Harry Glicken, who was formerly one of his students, with a cheery smile while sitting with his legs extended in front of him and a notebook and pen on his lap. He exudes a calm and enthusiastic attitude, as he ought to be. He is a volcanologist researching Mount St. Helens, which was rumbling. Johnston died as a result of Mount St. Helens explosion 13 and a half hours later. His final words were, "Vancouver, Vancouver, this is it," which were broadcast over the radio to the nearest office of the U.S. Geological Survey. He never had his remains discovered. Glicken was supposed to be on duty that day, keeping an eye on the volcano. But at the last minute, he switched shifts with Johnston since Glicken had an interview. Glicken was devastated to learn of the eruption and Johnston's passing. He spent hours searching for survivors with helicopter crews before they forbade him from going any further. Unexpectedly, Glicken would pass away from a different volcanic explosion in Japan years later. Number 1. Oma Bombing, 1998. A dad smiles for the camera while wearing a bright yellow sweater and carrying his smiling son on his shoulders. They were a couple of enthusiastic visitors from Spain who were in Oma, a town in Northern Ireland. On a busy street, they are positioned in front of an unassuming red automobile. The year was 1998, and the red automobile contained about 500 pounds, 226 kilograms, of explosives made of fertilizer that would go off shortly after the picture was taken. The Real Irish Republican Army, Real IRA, an IRA splinter group that disagreed with the ceasefire that the IRA had reached earlier that year, was behind the terrorist attack. The explosion resulted in 29 fatalities, 220 injuries, and widespread indignation around the world. The photographer tragically passed away, but the two people in the picture miraculously survived. Guys, there was the list. Some of these would have undoubtedly given you the chills. Which one did you think was the creepiest, and why? Please provide suggestions for further videos like this one as well.